I think it's time for me to start. There was no introduction. Just going to check. Do you hear me? Yes, thank you for thumbs up. Sorry for the quite a delayed start here. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session about menopause in the workplace, and it's so nice to be here. Let's start right away with a poll. Let's see if it is visible now. The question is, how often do you discuss menopause in your workplace? And the answers are between 5, very often, down to 1, which is never. And let's see here what we get for votes. 1 and 2 seems like the most common options so far. Almost half of you, 150 votes, are on a 1, never. And I would say actually, a couple of years ago, back in the 2020s, that response would have been mine as well. Because at that time, I had no knowledge at all in menopause. Menopause at work wasn't a topic that concerned me at all. I wasn't even having knowledge for the sake of my own sake as a woman. I was completely clueless. I started to gather knowledge about menopause through my own body, from the changes that were surfacing through my body. When I was around 39, something started to change in my body and in my mind, step by step, going back and forth, and I had no idea what it was about. 2 years later, I found out by coincidence that all the symptoms were connected to one thing, and it was menopause, and to be specific, perimenopause. And then I started to dig deep into the field of menopause in the workplace, as I realized I needed that knowledge in my HR role. My name is Anna-Karin Mikkelä. I'm a Swedish HR consultant, author, and keynote speaker. Important to know before we continue is that I do not have a medical background. I do not have an individual health perspective, but I do have knowledge, and it stems from people practices and over 20 years in the HR field. We will have about 5-ish minutes in the end for questions. So if you have any questions during this session, please write them in the Q&A function on the right side, so it's easier for me to find them there. All right. When I speak about this topic, I usually get the question, well, isn't this a private matter? Should we really talk about it at work? And here is my view on it. Menopause leads to 14 million days of absence yearly in the UK. It is absence connected with sick leave, with time off for doctor's appointments, and reduced working hours. I guess both the employee and her employer would rather have her at work and not at home. 9 of 10 Swedish women in menopause say that they are affected negatively, have a negative impact on the work performance due to menopause symptoms. And I want to add here that the menopause symptoms doesn't affect us all the time and every day to the same amount, but they are there and they do accompany us to work. Between 6 and 10% of the female workforce in the UK who are in menopause, they resign. At work, they encounter a lack of understanding from colleagues and managers. They don't get the support they need, so it's easier to actually resign. 97% of Danish women say that they experience menopausal symptoms. This is according to a recent study from the University of Copenhagen, with over 153,000 Danish women aged 45 to 59 years. Long time absence from work and early retirement is costing women in Australia about 17 billion Australian dollars yearly in lost earnings and less pension savings. A study of 3,000 female employees aged 40 to 79 across 8 countries found that 72% have hidden their menopausal symptoms at work at least once. And then 100%. All people assigned female at birth will go through menopause. Even those ones who today don't identify as a woman. So I wonder, is there anyone here who works in an organization without these individuals, without women? I guess not, because we are in the workplace. So my answer to the question is no, menopause is not a private matter for outside the workplace. At work, we need knowledge about it for productivity reasons, employee turnover, well-being, and also employer branding perspectives. So it is just as Marina Manin says. Employers have an opportunity to support women at a critical stage in both their lives and careers. In doing so, they will attract, support, and retain highly skilled senior talent and reap the benefits of increased business performance. So this sums it up very good. So the knowledge about menopause is spreading, and it's spreading right as we speak. So here's a short global outlook on what's going on in the field of menopause in the workplace right now. First of all, there is a global ISO standard that is going to be published this year, 45,010, and it covers guidelines and recommendations to employers when it comes to menopause and also menstrual health in the workplace. There is new legislation around the topic. From next year, UK employers with over 250 employees are needed to have an action plan for supporting employees in menopause. And last summer in Rhode Island, in US, it became mandatory for employers with 4 or more employees to provide workplace accommodations for people in menopause. Oops, there. More research is emerging as well. In particular, I want to highlight Gabriella Conti's research, The Menopause Penalty, which shows the effect of severe menopause symptoms for women in Norway and in Sweden. This in connection with their employment and their earnings. Her research highlights, for example, that there is an increase of time off for several doctor appointments, declines in full-time employment, and with that also decline in earnings. Last year, Wall Street Journal said that support during menopause is becoming the latest workplace perk. So there are increasing expectation from female employees towards their employers. Menopause support is becoming more and more vital for female candidates applying for jobs. And as an example, best practice, the municipality of Partille in Sweden is a pioneer organization when it comes to focus on menopause. They started in 2022 to offer training for both employees at menopausal ages and their managers. They also gave individual support to those employees in need. Last autumn in 2025, they announced that the organization had saved about 7 million SEK on this, on lower sick leave. And they had also gained a stronger employer brand as potential candidates appreciated their focus on menopause and women's health in the long term. So, to sum it up, menopausal awareness cuts costs, increases well-being, strengthens the employer brand. Rather good, isn't it? So, with this said, what is menopause really about? You will now get a very short summary, and it is in an artistic way, kind of, based on fact as well, but this is me and my perception of it. So menopause, it is about our hormones that are fluctuating. It's kind of a reverse puberty. With those of us who were born with ovaries, we transfer from being fertile into a stage where we no longer can get pregnant. This happens over many years, roughly between 5 to 10 plus years. Good to know, I call the whole transition period for menopause, but the medical terms, they are these. Perimenopause, this is where the hormones actually start fluctuating. It's progesterone and estrogen, and those fluctuations, they affect our well-being, both mentally and physically. This period often starts in our 40s and can, for some people, start a couple of years ahead of that. During perimenopause, you are still getting your period and can get pregnant. And then we have the medical term menopause, and that is actually just one day. It is the day where 12 months has passed since your last period. The average age for menopause, it varies between culture, and it's approximately between 50 to 52 years. But it is considered normal between 45 to 55 years. And then after this day, the rest of your life is in post-menopause. That is the phase where the hormone levels are a bit more stable. They usually stop fluctuating here. And some menopausal symptoms remains for some, but for the majority, post-menopause is so much easier than perimenopause. All the symptoms, because there are a wide range of them, all women don't get all the symptoms. Some have many, some have a few, and there's a few women who have no symptoms at all. The intensity, regularity, and the timing of the symptoms, they vary from person to person. So the symptoms can affect us in different ages, and also on top of that, both ethnicity and medical treatments can also have an impact on the timing and intensity. All menopausal experiences are unique. That is a key message to take away from here. And what does it then look like? This is what it can feel like to be in menopause. I will bring you some symptoms from head to toe, and bear with me and remember, not everyone is getting all the symptoms. So it can affect your mental well-being, through increased worrying, for example. It can be a decline in cognitive capabilities. And it's good to know here, your cognitive capabilities are still within the normal levels, and it's just temporary. Brain fog can appear, you lose words, you lose name of people, and that's also why I have this script, because sometimes the English words just disappear out of my brain. And also, a feeling of insecurity can arise during this time. And with that, sometimes you get an added extra deluxe version of imposter syndrome. So your mental well-being can be affected in many different ways. Some women experience less stress tolerance, and some of the mental symptoms can be similar to diagnoses such as burnout and depression. Another symptom is sleep disturbances and a consistent tiredness. Dry or running eyes can be a symptom as well. Symptom, I mean. And then we have the dry mouth, bad breath, or burning mouth symptom. Heart palpitations can be a menopausal symptom as well, when you can feel your heart beating just faster and faster, more than normal. Dry and itchy skin is another one. Heavy bleeding is a symptom too. Urinary tract infections can also be connected to menopause. Repeated UTIs can be a sign, as well as other issues regarding the urogenital area. And then we have muscle and joint pains. They can give you, there they are, frozen shoulder, hip ache, knee pain, and also issues with the ankle joints. And these are symptoms, just to name a few. Oh, by the way, did you see? I did not mention hot flushes, the most commonly known menopause symptom. The symptom that impairs our sleep quality and also at times at work comes with a social stigma because it can be perceived as embarrassing, especially if you don't talk about it. So the symptoms, whatever the combination the person in menopause is having, they come and go over the years and they do accompany us to work. So what impact do they have in our workplaces? And my answer to that is the everyday HR answer. Well, it depends. So in this case, it depends on the symptoms themselves, the work tasks that the individual is doing, and the culture at work. Because the attitudes in the workplace have a great impact too. Is it okay to mention menopause to your colleagues? Can you talk openly about it with your manager? Or is it a topic that employees can discuss during lunch hour? Or is someone laughing and making jokes about it? The responses affect the person in menopause. Just imagine being the only one in menopause and having no one around you that understands you. It can become an excluding factor, and that makes one feel alone. In a workplace where there is menopausal knowledge in an open culture, it's easier for the person in menopause to handle the systems and find simple adjustments. Well, then, besides the culture, the impact of job performance vary with the combination of systems, symptoms, and work tasks. Let me give you some examples here. So let's say you suffer from pain in your wrist, and it might affect your work performance. For me, for example, as a keynote speaker, I can have pain here and do my job anyway. So I would say that it has a very low impact on my work performance. But for those with wrist intense motions at work, such as production workers, checkout staff in the grocery store, or carpenters, for example, they need a fully functioning wrist. So this symptom can have a higher impact on their work performance. Let's say you have difficulties with incontinence. Those problems are so much easier to handle if you are the business controller having the lavatories just down the hall from her workplace. And it's more difficult for the bus driver, the firefighter, and the surgeons who can't leave the workplace that quick and easy. And for those of us who encounter mood swings, they might have less effect if you're working from home as a programmer and get annoyed in private. It can be more challenging if you work as a receptionist, teacher, salesperson, and in those cases, the menopause symptom can affect your capability to perform and keep good relations in your workplace. So to sum it up, as HR, you need to take into account the symptoms themselves, the work tasks, and also the culture in which you work. Looking at it on an individual level, there are things you can do for yourself when you know which kind of symptoms do you have. And if you have it, because it might not affect your work performance. And what can you do? Well, here's a short list for both the employee and the manager, different things to take actions on. If the symptom is fatigue, the employee could prioritize and do the most important task early in the day when she has energy for it. The manager can allow flexible work hours so the employee can get some more sleep in the morning after being awake half the night. When it comes to concentration issues, the employee can schedule dedicated focus time to complete one task at a time and get things done. And the manager can provide access to quiet spaces or a low distraction environment to increase the concentration capabilities. When it comes to memory loss as a symptom, as an employee, it's not always easy to handle, but maybe acknowledging that the cognitive capacity may fluctuate during this period, that might just make it less of a burden. So acceptance training comes in handy here. The employer, the manager, can encourage note-taking or use of AI tools to support meeting documentation, so everyone don't have to remember what has been said and decided upon. Joint and muscle pain, the employee can alternate her working positions and movements during the workday. The manager can encourage walk and talk meetings when that is appropriate. Hot flushes, the employee can keep a change of clothes available at work, and the manager can allow short breaks during meetings. And as you notice, none of these solutions are rather costly or time-consuming. They are easy and practical, because menopause at work doesn't have to be complicated and difficult. So far, I've said that there is not one menopausal experience, that everything is unique, nothing is similar to another. I tried to point out that there is no, not one size fits all when it comes to individual support. But actually, there is one thing that you can do, everyone, all of you, and that is learn more about menopause. Because we are lacking research about it, the healthcare sector is lacking knowledge as well. We haven't learned about it in school. We haven't earlier on talked much about it in society, and definitely not in our workplaces. So where do you in HR start? Here are my 3 pieces of advice. First of all, gather knowledge for yourself. Increase your own understanding if you aren't there yet. Because then menopause as an work environment factor will be visible to you too, as it was for me a couple of years ago. So here are 3 books that I like to recommend. How to Menopause by Tamsin Fadal. It's a very good understanding of every aspect of menopause. The Menopause Brain by Dr. Lisa Mosconi, if you want to have a dig into the world of the brain and its function and the changes in structure. Really, really interesting. And then a tiny little book, which is mine, in Swedish, Klimakteriet på jobbet, with the basic information you need about menopause in the workplace. And in my profile, you can find a document with further readings and also the sources to information I shared earlier on. Second step, dig into your data. Have a look at your sick leave statistics, your resignations, both the voluntary ones and also the ones initiated by the employer. Look at your pulse surveys and dig in detail. Have a look at gender and also different age groups. Can you see a pattern for women between 40 and 60 years old? And is there a possibility that this can have something to do with menopause? And can there actually be costs to save or well-being to increase? And with that information, take the action needed in your organization. I would guess the first step would be to spread knowledge and awareness. Do it yourself or ask colleagues or a group of employees to make it for you in the organization, to make you more menopause savvier. Or invite an external resource to help you out. Ask your employees at menopausal age themselves. What do they want and what do they need? invite to an employee resource group, and please keep the group alive, because you will have employees in menopause today and in the future. This is nothing that just disappears after this year. And finally, check with your managers. Do they feel comfortable and confident to discuss this topic with their employees on an individual level? Or do they need more training? So these are my 3 steps for you to take if it feels appropriate in your organization. And with this said, I'll give you a couple of seconds, maybe 20, to have a look at this one and just figure out for yourself, what do you have already in place in your organization right now? And what are the steps that you need to take? So take a couple of seconds, just write it down, the things that you have in your head for the moment. And with that said, I think it's time to see if we got any questions here. Here we are. Let's have a look. Most managers are men. It would be interesting to know how many of them are watching this. I can imagine how many. So how do you bring this up with managers or colleagues who also happens to be younger than you? Good question. And I must say, when I have sessions like this, it's unfortunately a majority of women who are attending, except when it comes to managerial training, because then it's an event organized by the employer, and it's a training session for the men and the women, all the leaders, which means the men has to attend as well. So training managers is actually one way of making sure that they get the knowledge. A simple way to get them on board is just starting to talk about it. Say, oh, I attended this event this morning. Did you know what I learned? And then somehow they will realize that they have women around them at work, at home, and they need this knowledge too. So start talking about it is my recommendation. Then we'll see, what kind of support can the employer give the employee in menopause? The best support, I would say, is to share the knowledge, because I'm not the only one realizing a bit too late about what was happening to me, because we as individuals in general, as women, we don't have the knowledge either. So spreading the knowledge. This is menopause, these are the symptoms, and this is what you can do about it as an employee or as an employer. Can you please list the names of the books here, please? There's a question. And yes, there is already a document for that. If you look into my profile under, there's some kind of resources link. There you have the link to all those 3 books and some more information. So have a look there. Do you think organizations should consider menstruation more widely and in any menopause policy discussions? From my point of view, I'm looking into menopause, but I do agree that menstruation is also a key issue for employers to handle. So having a focus on women's health is really good, I would say. And have a look into the upcoming ISO standard, because it covers both menopause and menstrual health. Oh, there is a short question, but with a tricky answer. How can HR leaders create a culture where these conversations feel safe and normal? Yes, it's not happening, especially if you don't there at all at the moment. This is not happening quickly, but starting to talk about it, that's just one thing. Discuss with the managers and the leaders, what do they need? What do they miss? What do they think is difficult? And let them practice on it. Use each other for practice and have a discussion between themselves before they talk to the employee. So make sure that the managers, the leaders in the organization has enough knowledge, because with knowledge, it's also easier to handle the subject. And there's a book recommendation by Davina McCall. Thank you for that. There's a Answer: the topic can be included in a training about intergenerational teams. Thank you for that. How can managers help their employees with problems connected to menopause? Just a quick answer to this one. The manager can ask the employee, what do you need? Because usually she knows. And with that, I see that time is 11 o'clock. So I just want to say thank you very much for listening to me. And if you want to contact me, here are my contact details. And for you in Swedish, there's a new book coming out in May, Klimakteriet för chefen, a practical guidebook for managers talking about menopause with employees. So thanks a lot for listening and have a good day.